So, Mr. Debrick, tell me about where you're from.
Rural route, Paola, Kansas,
Rural Rapids. So, how long you lived in Paola, Kansas?
all my life.
All your life. So, what about your family? I mean, well. First off, this episode of the Story of Us, we're going to go over the history of the Debrick family. We're going to go over your time at World War II. We're going to go over your family lineage, your company, which we're at right now. This part of the interview is taking place at Debrick Truck Line in Paola, Kansas, and this is the company that you started, correct?
That is correct.
Well, right off the get-go, how did you start the company?
I was farming and milking cows, had an opportunity to buy one truck and a piece of trucking authority, and that's how I started trucking. I sold my cows, continued living on the farm and farming too.
So when did you first get into it? What year was it?
1958.
1958. Wow. So you've been doing this for well over 60 years.
Nearly 60 years.
Nearly 60 years. At what point, okay, what did you do before that?
Farmed and milked cows.
Farmed and milk cows? And okay, you were in World War II. We'll talk more about that later, but you were in World War II. So how long after you got out of the Army did you begin this company?
Well, of course, I got out of service in 1946. So what's that, 12 years?
Yeah. Wow. So, and who was your first, or who was your co-pilot? Who was your partner in starting the company?
In what?
Yeah, did you have any partners when you started the company?
No, my wife.
Your wife?
And I started the trucking company.
Okay.
That's correct.
And so, and what was her job?
What I do?
What was her job? What did she do?
Doing the bookkeeping and record keeping of it, which trucking business involves a lot of book work with it too. And she done all of that.
So, and you had, I mean, obviously Debrick Truck Line. You have a plethora of family throughout the area. How many of your family members work for the company?
Right now, I have, of course, my wife has passed away due to an accident, and I have 4 children. They all work in the office. I have a granddaughter and a grandson, and I've got 2 that work here in the office.
So, tell us more about the company. What does the company do?
It hauls freight all over the United States and Canada, various kinds of freight. Like a motto I had said years ago, if you got it, a truck brought it.
That works. All right, so, okay, back before you started the company, what did you do? Like, what kind of work did you do?
I drove for a couple of the different companies. One company I delivered rebuilt generators and starters and hauled all over about 3 or 4 different states. I'd be gone a week at a time. And then I hauled propane with a tractor and trailer out of southern Kansas up here to Paola area. And then I had the opportunity to buy the one truck I talked about.
Okay, so back in the war, back in World War II, what was your job there?
Well, when of course I took my training first of all down in what is now Fort Hood, Texas. It was Camp Hood at the time. And then I immediately, after a short length of training, immediately went overseas and I was in a armored infantry battalion. And that job was just to, well, I ended up starting in Bastogne, Belgium, which is the center of the Battle of the Bulge. And we just lived in foxholes from one foxhole to another, and captured Germans or whatever needed to be done. And that was primarily during the war. Of course, I froze my feet and got trench foot, put in a hospital for 2 months. Finally, the doctor said, well, you've gained quite a bit of your circulation back, but you'll never get it all back, but they need you up at the front line. So then I rejoined my company just as a infantry. And we liberated Buchenwald, went on to Czechoslovakia and Poland, and there we had to wait for the Russians for a month. Not a month, a week or two, excuse me. And then, wasn't but a short time the war was over with. Then I got put into the MPs, and I had several positions. First of all, or not necessarily first of all, I sat in a house guarding Hermann Göring, which is Hitler's #1 man. I sat in a room about the size of this, instructed to hold my gun on my lap at all times and keep a close eye on him, because this was Oberursel, Germany, and this point used to be a German camp which the United States took over, and there was some interrogation going on for the criminals before they went to Nuremberg for trial. And then shortly after doing, excuse me.
And so what was the outcome of him?
The ultimate of him?
Yes.
He was hung. No, wait a minute. Most all of them, not everyone was hung, but he was one that just, he was a very intelligent and could talk English real perfect. I didn't talk to him. I had instructions not to talk to him in that room, but
Did he try to talk to you?
No, we didn't talk together at all.
Okay, so.
But I got the information on him, and he was determined not to get hung. And they don't know yet just exactly what happened, but he was in a cell at Nuremberg, Germany, and the belief is that his wife came and visited him, and she passed a pill on to him, or he had it stowed away someplace and took it and killed him.
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
it was, he died that way. Cyanide pill.
Yeah.
And that was the end of him, but a good deal of them was of the criminals. The reason I know this, I had a good friend that was a sergeant at arms there, and he got all the information and pictures of them and signatures and stuff from them, and their beliefs and everything. So I didn't get that directly myself because I was already out of there before. I mean, I didn't go to Nuremberg. I was gone from there then.
So what are some of what are some of your most vivid memories from the war?
Well, first of all, I didn't know anything, and I'll tell you just very shortly. I was dropped off in Bastogne, Belgium, and at that time they were needing replacements as fast as they could get them, because there was a lot of deaths and injuries at that time. And I got dropped off from a truck into Bastogne in the middle of the night, and it was being shelled very heavily. Bastogne was the center of the Battle of the Bulge. And it was very dark, but they were just flooded with shells and lights. And I went out to relieve myself outside of the side of the building. And after doing so, I came back in, and all the people were gone. 10 or 12 other soldiers were gone. And I grabbed my rifle and whatever I had, and run out in the street, and it was all cluttered with shelled up buildings. And it just happened to be a truck, army truck, our army truck come by. Fella, as a child, turned out to be a chow truck, and he held his hand out, and I grabbed it. He pulled me up in the truck, and he asked me, "Where are you going?" I said, "I don't know. Where are you going?" And he said, "We're going right on the edge of town here in the Ardennes Forest. I'm going to Company B of the 9th Armored, or 6th Armored Division of the 9th Armored Battalion, Infantry Battalion."
So you weren't even supposed to be there.
I didn't know where I was supposed to go. And they, no questions asked. They just said, "Dig in as fast as you can. We're being shelled very heavily. Don't even light a cigarette or you'll get hit."
Uh-huh.
And the only thing I knew, then we started to move on a little bit and took some towns. And to make a long story short on that, this went on for quite some time, months. And I had never got any mail. Secondly, you automatically come, when you go overseas, you become a private first class.
Mm-hmm.
I was still a private. No one asked me anything or told me anything other than what to do and get going. Then, it's my fault, because I wasn't getting any mail. It wasn't my fault I wasn't getting the mail, but I didn't write home. That was my fault. So I found out later that after I got home, that what my mother had done, she got a hold of the Red Cross here in Paola, and they finally located me. And how, I don't know. But then they asked me, said, "Soldier, aren't you riding home?" And I said, "No." He said, "Why not?" And I said, "I haven't been getting any mail." He said, "That's a poor excuse." And I said, "All right, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll start writing if you get me some mail." So I was putting the pressure on him.
so you switched the...
And finally, I got 112 letters all in one bunch. And then...
Are you serious?
And then I thought, well, I hadn't got paid either, or even become a private first class. So I got in hold of our company clerk. He checked into it, and he said, "Oh, you were in dead file. So that's why you're not getting any mail."
So what does that mean?
That I was dead.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know whether my parents ever got word of that or not. I don't know what happened. But then...
So when you got split apart from your original group...
Well, the original group wasn't even assigned to anybody yet. But I didn't know who I was supposed to be assigned to. I just fell into it. And I didn't know until months afterwards. Because nobody asked me. They didn't even ask my name or nothing. Just they were needing people so bad, and we had to do what we had to do to stay alive. And that's all I did.
So now I heard rumors that you were kind of an ornery kid.
Well,
is that true?
I have to admit that. A little bit of the orneriness is after of course I went overseas on the Queen Mary and landed in Scotland, Glasgow, Scotland, immediately went down to Southampton, England.
Now how long did that trip take back then?
Oh, probably 5 days or something like that.
That's not bad.
Oh, they were the Queen Mary and Queen Elizabeth were the fastest ships on the ocean then.
Now how many people were on that ship?
I was told there was 15,000 troops on the ship, besides the English. See, I'd owned by Great Britain, and they had people operating it. And so I was told there was 15,000. We had to exchange time sleeping on this promenade deck. One night we'd sleep on the promenade deck, and then we get in on a bunk. But anyway, then what I was about to tell about, after crossing English Channel, they put us on 40 and 8, which is a French boxcar, over 40 men standing up or 8 horses, or one of the other.
And or.
Anyway, we talk about honoriness. The fella next to me, I nudged him and I said, hey, let's see if we can't get that door open and get out and get on top of the car, which we did. Then in doing so, we played cowboys and Indians, jumping back and forth from one car. He got a car ahead of me, and the next thing I knew, he flipped me. I seen him take a flip. That's when I decided this was a poor idea to do this. I was assumed that well, he's in the French timberland someplace, and no one knows anything about him. And I had already forgotten his name. If he told me, evidently he did. But I hadn't got home. Well, I'd gotten home probably 20, 30 years.
So you went through the whole war and never knew about what happened?
Never knew anything about him, and got home and spent probably, 10 years or longer here. And having not, I just didn't care about telling my wife anything about my experiences in the war, but I did tell her about that because I was concerned about it. Then one day, a fellow here in Paola, the distant cousin of mine, called up, wanted to know if I didn't want my wife and I to come over for lunch. He wanted to meet a friend that he served in the United States with. When we got there after eating, we sat in the living room, the couch, and first thing he said, do you remember that time you and I got on that boxcar? Yeah. I said, was that you? I almost rolled out of the boxcar. Off the couch. And I said, didn't that wire cut you? Well, first of all, when I seen that had happened, I ducked, and the wire just scraped the top of my helmet. I ducked down too. But the wire just touched my helmet, so that's when
So if you'd been up 6 inches, that'd have just chopped up the face.
Right, it cut my throat off.
Yeah.
But anyway, I asked him about that with him, and I said, didn't that wire cut you? He said, it caught me right across my mouth. But those cars didn't travel near as fast as they do here in the States, probably 30 miles an hour. And he told me he was able to hold on. And like I said, probably 30 years after I got home is when my cousin met him with lunch. And
he didn't. When he met your cousin, he didn't know that.
Well, the reason he put that all together, I must have told him I was from Paola, Kansas, knowing my cousin was from Paola, Kansas, so they put the two together, and that's how we.
That is a small world. So where was he from originally?
He's from up north of St. Joe, I think in Kansas, but north of there.
Wow.
He's passed away now, but at that time, yes.
So did you guys stay in touch?
Not really. It was just, I had too many things going on, too much happening.
So okay, I just thought about this a little bit ago. What was your, okay, you're over there in Germany, over there in Poland, wherever. Do you have, what was your memory of Paola then?
Paola?
Yeah, like when you thought back to being at home, what did you think about it? A lot of people think about the town square. A lot of people think about it when they're away, but what was that one thought that you kept?
Well, things have changed a very lot.
Yeah.
Of course, I was living on the farm right where I live now.
And so where is that at?
Southeast of Paola, about 12, 13 miles.
Okay.
It's a mile south and 2.5 east of Block,
Kansas.
Okay. That's where I lived, and I had I started high school in 1939, and in 1941 I was in high school, and they immediately stopped bus service. The only way I could get to high school was on bus, and they stopped that due to tires and fuel and everything is being regulated.
Yeah.
And then my dad and a neighbor built a truck I took a truck, not built a truck, but built a box on the back end of a truck, made that into like a bus. And then I drove it into Pale and picked up the other children around their area that was going to high school. And so I missed out on a year on high school, but went back again. Then I no more and got back going to school again. Two of my friends, classmates, a month or 2 months older, 2 months older than me, they were drafted, and I wanted to go with them. So I volunteered to go with them. We got to Fort Leavenworth to take our physicals, and they didn't pass their physical. So the way I went.
So the whole reason you went because of them. And then,
Well, I would have went the next month anyway. Yeah. No, I was willing to go, and I just felt there's something I needed to do, and I wanted to do it, and it just turned out the way it did. But one of those fellows passed away, and the other one is still alive. I get to see him at least once or twice a month, once a month. And,
Good.
well, not all the time, but we meet. He lives up in Overland Park.
Mm-hmm.
But everything turned out just the way it did.
So you get back here to Paola, and what was the first thing you did when you got home?
Well, I had an uncle and aunt that lived here in Paola, and I come home on the train, and I walked from a railroad station to, just on East Wheel a little ways. That's where no, it was just my grandma still lived there, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So I got home, and they called my parents at home. And they come in and got me.
Wow. So, what was the I mean, did you come home did people congratulate you? Did people, I mean...
Well, yeah, I never made much of an issue out of it. I just was home, and in fact, I got my papers at Fort Leavenworth, and they asked some questions, and in fact, I made a mistake then. They wanted to know about my hospital time, and I said, oh, I don't remember everything. All I want is my discharge. And I should have gave them a little more information, but I was anxious to get my discharge.
So when you got you came in New York, right?
Yes.
Okay. So when you got the boats there in New York, I mean, I've seen videos, I've seen pictures, photographs of people getting off the boats there, coming back from the war, ticker tape parade, people cheering, confetti. Oh no, was it like that when you got back there?
No, I don't remember seeing anything like that. I just looking forward to
Getting back to Paola?
get back to Paola again, and there wasn't it was a case where the war had been over a while already.
And so you were 21 then when you got
I
back?
was, let's see. Yeah, I've been 21 then, yes.
Okay. So how long, when did you get married to your wife?
In 1949.
49. So right when you got back pretty much?
What?
When did you get back?
I got back in 46.
Okay, so 3 years after that? So did you know your wife before that?
Yes, I just, she lived within about 4 miles of me then, or her parents and my parents.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew who she was, but I just, she was younger than I was then, and I wasn't that old yet either. So I knew of her, but I didn't really know her.
Yeah.
I mean, not well acquainted, and there wasn't. Then a short while after I had gotten home, I started dating her.
So tell us about your wife.
What?
Tell us about your wife.
Of course, her name was actually Doris Lorene Debrick, which I have a sister by the name of Doris. But she always went by Lorene. At that particular time, it seemed like there was a lot of kids that they went by their second name. And she, of course, she went to high school, and she worked in Paola. And then shortly after she graduated high school, we got married.
So what was that first date like?
Went to a baseball game.
Really?
Block used to have a real good baseball team, and their ball diamond was just a mile from where I lived.
Really?
And they played all kinds of teams all around the country. In fact, they played the colored team in Kansas City one time. The colored team come down here, I forget the name of them, probably know. They're well known in Kansas City. Of course, they got Monarchs, I think.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah. Wow. And they played.
Did they play them down here or up there?
Down here.
Really? The Kansas City Monarchs?
Yeah. At one time. And the other places they played a team over at Rich Hill, Missouri. They played clear down in Kansas, about 40, 50 miles. They had a wide range, and they were all good. In fact, the two buddies that was to go into service with me, they both played on that team, among all the neighbors around there. And that's...
So wait, your two buddies, they couldn't pass the physical to go to the Army. They were going to play a baseball team down here.
Yeah. I never did play baseball. Well, I played some, but nothing on the team. But yeah, that's where our first date. That's where I went. We went to one of their games, or we went to a number of their games, as a matter of fact.
So how long in between the time? Okay, that first date to when you got married? How long did you date before that you got married?
Oh, probably a couple of years.
Wow.
Maybe I don't really remember that. I just and we just we went to Kansas City to the different places up there. Done things like that, and mostly right around here. And then of course we got married, and then.
So what was her maiden name?
Prothy.
Prothy. Okay.
Her dad and mother's name was Ed and Amanda Prothy. My folks was well acquainted with them, having lived in, the area around Block at that time was just pretty much of a German community.
I was going to say, Prothys and Debricks are two of the mainstay names you hear.
Well, yeah, in a sense. All four of my grandparents came from Germany, primarily for religious freedom. And they, of course, they're one of the early ones for the Block Church and the school. My first year at school was at Mobley Schoolhouse, which was a half a mile from our place. It's no longer there. It was just a one-room grade school, one teacher. And then my parents wanted me to go to a parochial Lutheran school there right south of the Block corner.
Yeah.
And my second grade, I started riding a horse to school, to Block. And then I rode a horse for several years. I had a couple of different riding horses, but I always enjoyed riding a horse.
Really?
One particular winter day, I rode my horse to school, and this was after my second grade, because I had to have help. This was a full-sized horse. It wasn't a pony. It was just regular riding horse. And I had to have, being in second grade, I had to have people help me or somebody help me on the horse. I couldn't even reach that high. And there was an older classmate there at the block school, and then we had a little lean-to shed. They rode horses, and I did. And that's where we kept our horses during school time. But this one particular day, it had snowed so much, and I still went to school, and it was very cold. I got to school, and the teacher said, "There's no one else coming to school. You might as well go back home." So this particular horse stumbled very easily, but it was a fast runner. It was really, not having school, I had this horse, Terminus, go as fast as he could go. I got 3/4 of a mile from home. It hit a snowdrift, the horse did, and he went down. And we had rain before that snow comes, that big snow. And then this snowdrift, the horse's head went down through the snowdrift and got back up and had mud all over its bridle bit. And I was able to get back on the horse then, so I just got back on the horse and went on home. And
so coming up through the generations of living in the area, living in Paola, what is there one generation, or I guess one decade, that sticks out the most to you? Whether it be the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s?
oh, they were all interesting. I mean, I liked going to school. I liked to study. In fact, the first few years going to block school, we even studied German.
Wow.
And I had, to be right frank with you, I could understand, well, I'd say understand, in a sense I could, and German, and speak it somewhat, and then it wasn't long with the German language, but I still feel, I always have felt that the German language is easier to understand in one sense. So many words of the English language or the American language, same word means different things. And of course, one thing they always kid the German about, I'm going to throw that's the way the German language is, in German, throw the cow over the fence some hay. It's kind of backwards, you know. Instead of saying, I'm going to throw the hay over to the cow, throw the cow over the fence. But that's the way I knew it. I mean, that was...
So now, did that come in handy in the war?
What?
Did that come in handy in the war, like over in Germany?
Not really. No,
Okay.
I didn't. I could understand some of the things that was going on, but no, at the time I was going to school, my parents, they talked English at home. There was some at this particular time, some parents, they talked German at home, but my parents, they wanted me to get talking English better.
And how far removed from Germany were they? I mean, when did they come over?
Well, my grandparents, four of my grandparents, my parents didn't come directly from Germany.
Okay, so your parents were born here.
They were born here.
Okay.
Yeah, the grandparents were born in Germany and came over here to the United States. But that's, another thing, and talking what I did, of course, after the war was over, I got into the MPs, and I told you about sitting with Hermann Goring, which was Hitler's top man.
Yeah.
Then I had several different things I needed to do, or that was part of my job, doing other things too. And then one of my most delightful jobs I had in the Army, I always said this, I got transferred to Paris. And
Really?
I ended up, and at that time, and shortly after the war was over, in the United States had a nightclub in the on the Eiffel Tower at the first landing. And I eventually got put up there as a guard up there. And reason I say that was the best job I ever had. Of course, being in France, a lot of champagne was available, and they was popping, dancing and popping champagne bottles constantly. And
even during the war.
this was right after the war.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. And the officer in charge, he said, these GIs up here, they're going to be drinking and have a lot of fun. They might want you to have a drink with them, which is normal for him. Guys drinking, he went, oh, come on, have a drink. He said it'd be all right, you'd have a little drink. So that was the first opportunity I had
French champagne.
I did. I felt like I saved a man's life.
How's that?
It was while I was up in the Eiffel Tower, and there was the landing. There was a square area, much bigger than this, and then a railing around it. And I happened to walk out just checking around, and one fellow was just ready to jump over the side, which would have been 100-foot drop there. He was just one going about, like I grabbed him and I said,
Was he trying to kill himself, or was he? Oh my gosh.
Well, first of all, he had more than that he should have had in to drink. And I said, what's your problem? He said, my girlfriend don't love me, my mama don't love me. Just one of the crying jags. And I pulled him back over, and I said, come on. I took him to the elevator. There was elevators then at that time going up one of the legs of the Eiffel Tower. And so I saved him from doing what, of course, the champagne and everything working on him didn't help him.
Now, was he French or was he American?
What?
Was he French or was he American?
No, there's just all Americans up there.
Oh my gosh.
Well, they might have had some French people doing the serving and playing the music, but it was, like I said before, the popping champagne would just pop, pop, pop continually. And then this I didn't see, but I can believe it was so. American fighter pilot flew underneath the legs, through the legs. Well,
is it that big of a landing or that big of a space?
Oh yeah.
Really?
Well, you can picture it if you like. You know how our town square is up here.
Yeah.
If there'd be a leg on each corner.
Really?
And then Eiffel Tower. Well, I have.
And how far up to the first landing?
100 feet. It's nearly 1,000 feet to the clear to the top.
Yeah.
I did go to the top. They had actually it was no more than a pulley on top and two rather cages, and they used weights. My understanding, they'd have enough weight in the top one to go down to bring the other one up. They just go back.
Pulley system back then. So yeah.
Change weights and go down like that.
Okay, now I have a quick question. I've done some homework on you, and I understand you like to dance.
Oh yes.
So now they were there popping bottles. You out there dancing?
I of course didn't have a chance to do much dancing over there, but well, I danced with my wife. Her and I, for about 18 or 20 years, we'd go down to South Texas, down Mexico. We'd go across the border quite often, and until she passed away, why, we danced every day down there. They had dances during the day down there. And one of my favorites, or our favorite songs, and up here we went to a lot of dances when they had more dances around here. And Fraulein, I done that, picked that song out purposely.
Really?
And as of this day, well, anything dance I go to, there's a German band over at Herman, Missouri, will be here at the Blocktoberfest. And we went over to Herman, Missouri many times, and they still are playing the band and orchestra, and even here they play and they announce, this is Arnold's favorite song. And so I guess I might have picked that song out
So you're famous.
honoring us. Well, my wife loved it too, loved the song and the music, but then she got over thinking that I was actually wanting it for a Fraulein, but, I mean a German girl, which is Fraulein, and we got along very well. A couple, this fellow was a good friend of mine and classmate too. He did go in the Army a little bit later, and he went in over the Pacific, and he picked, and he and his wife and my wife and I, we always went to Texas together, went to dances together. And, I mean, we traveled separately in RVs, but anyway, he was in the Philippines, so he picked his song out, My Filipino Baby. I have records of both. I have a number of records of a number of songs on Filipino Baby and Fraulein.
That's too much.
Just have to keep the wives on their toes.
That's good. All right, well, Arnold, we're going to pick this up again at your house tomorrow.
Okay.
And yeah, this is Paul Michael Davis and Mr. Arnold Debrick, and this is the story of us.